Hello. Hi, guys. I think we're live now. Um, my name is Kimberly Reyes. Nice to virtually meet all of you. I will talk and introduce myself and my work a bit while we let people get settled in. I'm originally from New York City, but I also consider San Francisco home. So, hello to everyone watching from both of my cities. Super special thanks to any Californian on right now. I know it's so early. Also, thank you so much to Culture Ireland and Poetry Ireland for having me and everyone involved in this. It's been an honor to be here with you and to be in Ireland. Ireland Performs will run for the coming 4 weeks on Culture Ireland's Facebook page with many other artists of varying genres. So be sure to keep up on all of their events. And feel free to share this stream with your friends and all the streams as well. I'm in my bedroom in Cork right now. It's so goth and Dickinsonian to be isolated up here reading poetry. I live on a top floor flat on Barrack Street, and I have some pretty spectacular views. It's beautiful outside of St. Finbarr's Cathedral. And yesterday I uploaded a bunch of videos and put them on my channel so that you guys could see what I see when I'm writing poetry. I put out a book in October of last year, Running to Stand Still. Yes, I love you too. And I can't support it in person right now, so I'm going to be reading from it heavily with you this afternoon. I'll be reading mostly poems, but I have some short prose pieces that I can read as well, because I have a book of essays that came out last April called Life During Wartime. And if you have any questions about craft or anything during this, just send a note. I will be going back and forth between screens to see what's going on in the live chat as well. Um, and feel free to put me on the background if you're cooking or gardening or whatever. I'm here. So I think I'm gonna get started. I am gonna start with some really new stuff that is about life in Cork, which is, I guess, now my third home city. So here we go. The first one is called Presentiment. Munster's winter is unfastening, stillborn untruths, portals of saline pre-sun. The banshees are screaming in concert, a breach of birds, a book, a psalm. Keep the wounds open, so no one is surprised by the blood. Make no light this cocoon, a sarcophagus, this host. By night, when air is thinner, I finally hear, I'm finally here, and understand the need for blackout sleep, slanted rain, a wet brain, and darkness, a declaration. Don't be scared of ghosts. They have no business with you, they'd say. All rout would happen. Open your eyes by light of day. And now I, across the Atlantic, must sleep. This next one is called The Crow is Barking Up a Storm. At St. Finbarr's this morning. It's all about last night's row. Men are violence, he says. I can yell all night. Sunrise is pointless. The aim at dark, a distraction. And just like that, the day is gone. You brought the gulls. 4 black males talk. They call it a murder. They act as though we don't honor our dead. They personify. A magpie out of frame, just one, while little blackbirds watch on perched shelters. Once I was mistaken for Raven, gifted bread by an American poet. A huff and off the church pew, he chews rye and shame. So now's a good time to watch those bird videos that I uploaded. Let's see. I don't have any questions yet, but I'm loving all the good vibes that I'm getting from you. So thank you very much. Um, oh, and that poem is going to be in The Stinging Fly this summer, another great literary journal in Ireland. So check that out when you can. And this next one is called Crane Lane, Last Call. Know which parts of you he wants, what will be thrust, his mouth a gint tobacco tart, his lust a likening, spoils the unpolished aperture of this moment, and all the others you wanted to boldly flash, discreetly smolder. I was gonna say I miss going out a lot, but maybe I don't. There's good and bad to it. Okay, so I might read some prose now just to better introduce myself. I wrote this article that was in the Echo on just this Friday about being abroad right now, and I'm just going to read it. I was a teenager, racing from my junior high school to the pizzeria when I spotted a local celebrity. D Nice was signing autographs in Queens, New York, while handing out his record, Call Me D Nice. It was 1990 and he was super cute with a ridiculously infectious smile, the kind of voice that puts you at ease while also making you stand a bit straighter, and a luscious, high top hip hop fade. Although I mostly listened to freestyle, new wave, and the New Kids on the Block at the time, I knew his rap single and knew that it was an honor that he came to visit us. He was gracious and took the time to talk to every one of us, and he signed my record with an extra exclamation point. The record is still in my parents' house in Queens. I currently live in Cork as a Fulbright scholar studying Irish literature and film at University College Cork. I was informed via email recently that the US Fulbright program is now suspended. I don't know if and when my university will open again. I don't know if I will have a graduation ceremony. I don't know where I'll be living in a few months. I receive almost daily emails advising me to go home as soon as possible from both Fulbright and my university because no one knows how long this crisis will last, meaning I could be grounded in Ireland indefinitely. So while I consider the American Embassy in Ireland's advice to leave immediately, how could I possibly do that now? I gave up my apartment in San Francisco to come here, and leaving prematurely means I have no place to live. My only option is to go live with my senior citizen parents and possibly infect them. I'm one of billions who don't live in a private house at a safe social distance from others. I live in a house with other international students, none of whom I knew before arriving here. I'm still one of the most privileged in all of this mess, as my grant money didn't disappear and my rent in Cork is prepaid for a few months. And I have a sanctuary, my bedroom, as I engage in social distancing from others in my accommodation. Last week, I started to dance with my mom 3,000 miles away in Queens, joining thousands of others around the world for D Nice's homeschool virtual dance parties on Instagram Live. We sweat and text and hoot and holler as we get our 10,000 steps in, reliving the days when we could be in a room full of people without fear. My mom is a really great dancer, who I just remembered was the prom queen of her high school. How did I forget that? I'd forgotten so many other things I love about the people I love the most before this week. D Nice plays a lot of the music I only ever heard in my living room growing up. Music my young parents played to each other to communicate their feelings instead of saying them. That pulsing apartment and its borough are pretty much ground zero for COVID-19 right now. We are the new Wuhan. We are in deep, deep trouble. D Nice's sets aren't extraordinary in a way we haven't heard from top DJs around the world. What makes them special is D Nice himself. He's enigmatic, he's charismatic, he's talented. When he says, everybody on the dance floor, it gets us up because he's tapped into the void of humanity and simplicity we've been lacking as we walk the streets and grocery aisles in masks, only able to see the anger and apprehension in people's faces. There's no reason for him to be online for 7+ hours at a time, except for his love of music and bringing people together, and that energy is palpable. Every time he wishes someone a happy birthday, celebrity or not, I raise a glass of my quarantini, Huzzer Irish vodka and Irish kombucha. When he lets us, or specifically Halle Berry, know he's drinking a 2016 Cabernet as he enters an extra set, I rush to pour another glass, virtually making my way from the dance floor to the bar, wading through people like Michelle Obama, Oprah, Holly Robinson Pete, Dougie Fresh, Kelly Rowland at this Black American A-list party. D Nice plays at least 20 last songs most nights. You could feel his joy in playing music for people, particularly our people, while calling out his bipartisan desire to get Americans registered to vote. He understands the gravity of the moment, his perhaps fleeting influence, and is doing what he can to get us back on the real dance floor sooner than later. As a New Yorker, it's almost certain I will lose someone close to me. This will be the case for a lot of New Yorkers, especially New Yorkers of color who overwhelmingly have friends and family who work as nurses, cashiers, for the MTA, my brother is a train operator, or in the gig economy. If we get out of this anytime soon, we will all be dancing more. We'll be smiling more, hugging more, and remembering more. Until then, we hold each other within grasp over D Nice's beats, at least until the last song plays. Okay, so I think I have, yeah, that is definitely Cillian Murphy in the background, and I don't apologize for that. And let's see, I think I might, you know what? I think I'm going to read another really short essay, but it's kind of like a prose poem, and it's called On Land. When I was 7, my parents put me on a plane with my maternal grandmother to see South Carolina, the place she had most immediately come from before New York City. Even before we got on the plane, I was in heaven. There were towering grown ups, strangers fawning all over me at each pause on the trip, smiling officers at the security lines, consistent hand holding, free decks of cards and peanuts, crayons and hamburgers, inquiries about my age and when I got to be so adorable. With each gate cleared, each plane boarded, a new set of people waited. Unknown colors, smells, and adventures waited. I was safe, being in transit, being in temporary regard. We arrived at the family farm around midnight. As our car pulled up, I spotted 3 sets of sparkling eyes, or I guess they spotted us. They gleamed, unblinking and suspended, a few feet in front of the house. As we approached, the eyes got taller and brighter. Soon, these curious glints of amber were knee level to the adults and almost eye level to me, transfixed. They were the piercing eyes of German shepherds. I had every reason to assume they were the hounds of hell, considering all the horror movies I'd mainlined by that tender age, and the fact that I'd never been anywhere close to what could remotely be described as rural, even in the daylight. I only knew asphalt and concrete, tightness and strain. Still, I instinctively knew the difference between curious joy and menace. There was safety in the unpredictability of the hour, freedom. Everyone and everywhere here, everything here could be new. I didn't reach for the comfort of my grandmother's hand in the darkness. I didn't understand ownership or the meaning of property. I didn't understand inheritance and all the non material ways it can manifest. But the next morning, my grandmother said all I saw was ours. It had been ours for a generation or two. Over the next few days, that plot felt more like home than any land I'd ever been on. I felt nurtured by the deepness and dryness of the soil, polished each morning from the midnight dew I could have sworn we brought in. Something about that spot felt nuclear, like a bomb had long ago gone off there, and in the clearing, a beginning. Like the toxicity of the war was still there, simmering, latent, beneath the surface. Layers of sun-cooked soot and manure and blood caked into a barrier of calm. Like only seeds with a genetic code similar to what was buried could pollinate the vastness. I knew this from the way the chickens, plump with scraps and leftovers, skipped, and the way the heedful dogs pranced through the warm hazel fields. It felt like we all knew this. It felt like the purest dizzy. It felt like a tiny home. Um, Rachel, why are you laughing at me? um, uh, I okay, so I am the queen of writing about my grandmother, and so I think I'll go into more grandmother poems from my book. Um, let's see. Okay, yeah. Whew, this one's a doozy. Okay, it's called Epigenetics, Elegy, and Effigy. I found her name online, Lennison. My great great, on pixelated frayed brown certification. She was born before the war. We certainly didn't win. And though the website wouldn't name it, born belonging to Messrs. Sirs, names that don't matter, just that they took and gave her hers. Forced red South Carolina quicksand clay under chattel nails. No lift in that lifetime. But she planted grit that quietly crept high enough above the trees to name her babies babies, force their leaves. I mouth her name, Lennison, with every rise. I belong to her choreography, her suffocating whys, her leaping over lives like my grandmother's, fastening from new man to new child to new man to get a share, cropped her roots, her 6-foot frame. Lennison flicks my wrist to leap, ashen skin. The bodiless hands, wooden third eyes, drop me in half stride. Anointing a slinking two-headed freedom, bare knuckling wear and track, the familial whip echoing snake's hiss, free fall, a prodding crack. The trapped girls without proper provenance, woman without a world that won't claim us, or how our mothers only knew birthright belonging, is the name. Guideless steps become bloodthirst or gain. Imprint. In the photo on the fridge, my grandmother is wearing a linen blazer that engulfs her shoulders, as if a man's and not just a size too big, as if not made for her at all. Her white rimmed glasses have the same indifference for her body, pinching the bridge of her nose. Her hair is slicked and pinned in the toil of an at least 2 hours to wash, press and curl bun. The way her white shirt clings to her clavicle, I can only imagine the picture was taken on a hot Harlem day, maybe August. I keep it next to the 2009 inauguration photo, Michelle in felted gold lace. My grandmother's photograph, crystalline amber, a Kodak filter she probably paid for more for up at the local Woolworths down south or up north. I'm sure she thought it would make her look more sophisticated. I crack yolks to the steam, hair sizzling inside each tooth, hot comb fighting tired, steady hands, instance humidity. Everything in place the next hour or so, long enough to take the picture. Yes, we do need more poets. um, okay. Okay, so I'm going to read a poem called Opening Lines. You keep asking where I'm from. I've said New York City twice, second generation. You keep examining like there's no equation, like we somehow began at the sum. Like later, you won't try to impress with a Wu-Tang lyric, liberties with a Chappelle set. Like you don't know where we are or what we've built. Like you don't know me. You keep asking where we're from because the hyphen sits no direction. Like we're still in between. You keep the game going with interrogation. You keep repeating the question. So this next one is called Beloved, and it's after Toni Morrison. More than Pop-Tarts, Bruce Banner, my mom's quick wit, our shared triumph, her beam still fighting, still light in irises, the color of her skin. Hearing her ignite through the voice of her dog, her delight in playing ventriloquist, for the sponge weathering the waves of the strange hide and meat he obediently observed. Her banter, her barking, lulled us. More than the smell of blood, peroxide, falling off my dusty pink Mrs. Pac-Man skateboard, the scent of soreness from our laughter, my grounding. I didn't know how much the scars would count, how age would become collage. Without the speckled blood pavement, I could scrape the white off my fingernails, connects the dots on. How I'd mourn the dog she forgot she buried because it was an accident, because of her baby brother who fought the hallucinations. Scarlet scenes, a beloved, too tuned to this world, sans small peach pills. The interruption quick, a paw wound for tending, small licks needing cleansing, a stove pot toppled over, a house left to bare bone. The exit simple, 2 wood boxes under red clay, caked cryonic fear, when she buried her mother the coming year. The smell of boiled fur hanging, I still remember, the most innocent suffering, the most cruelty. I learned, she prayed. For her, the specifics melted away, hid in the merciful wings of dismemory. Panning out, painting aside, tethering a glance, she used to be able to do that. But survival required broad strokes, with the new slits of irons framing her nose, balancing the weight. My compass, struggling to see straight. I did warn you, I was a goth poet. Okay, here's another poem about my other grandmother, and this one is called Reyes. On still Saturdays, I'd disappear into a plush brown love seat and father's mother's faded beige living room. We'd watch white dead-eyed slashers expose eager, glistening bodies, Jason, Freddie, and Michael, mass stowaways I understood to be, birthed beneath the red Atlantic, explaining gore and the many doors of no return to a child prying for a way back home. We were one. We were mestizo red, my yellow grandmother and me. The machete sugarcane bled red on the island, dark and Hebrew Salinas poor. Red was the language we spoke, fertile in storied humility. The good red on the mainland, the mixed and other and ancient and othered, got some Indian in me reigning red, whose scorn I didn't know then. The why is your last name Reyes? Is your husband Spanish? This. Then we only had the scripted anodyne red leaking out of the screen. Um, Hi, Neem. Uh, okay. I think I think I'm going to read a poem. It's kind of surreal, but so I wrote this poem a couple of years ago, and it was about the tragedy of one of my classmates in journalism school was brutally murdered, and it was like an international story. And I wrote this poem about just how strange it was to read what was happening in real time on social media, and how we just sort of digest super important information in a strange way when we're reading it online. And of course, now, I mean, it's over the top with how we're digesting horrible information every day on social media. So this poem is called "The Body." You keep reading about this woman you don't know. Maybe you knew back in J school. It was J school, so really, details you should remember. This woman disappeared. People, some you know, are memorializing and celebrating her work. They say she was smart, fearless, always smiling. Divers found her head today, and suddenly you realize you didn't know it was missing. You didn't know what happened. You scrolled, but stopped to read a funny post about Project Runway. Thought about Heidi Klum, how her nickname was the body. You always thought that was weird. Heidi Klum sold makeup too, which required a face or at very least a smile to attach to the body. The name of the woman you don't know is Kim, was Kim. You should have remembered another Kim in your cohort, but she's not familiar. Not even when you see her headshot in the email for the memorial at your school. There have been a few. She was maybe your age, but strawberry blonde, and when she took the photo, maybe there was a fan in the room, or she just turned her head for the flash at exactly the right time, which is hard to do because she was engulfed strands of orbiting amber flames crystallized aglow. You remember Madonna's hair floated the same way in the Live to Tell video. There was this Project Runway contestant, Stella, who'd pronounced leather without the R, which you didn't pick up at first because you're from New York. But then you saw how it was funny, how it became a joke, how people can be funny without even trying, if being funny just means people are laughing at you. You'd watch Runway in bed with this man with blue and red snake tattoos who also secretly loved Tim Gunn and Stella. He had a thick Boston accent that tickled as you both slowly coo leather back at the screen. Once, through vodka breath, he told you the only reason you were in his bed, your body. He could take or leave your smile. Snakeskin is leather. Turns out turning out cattle isn't the only way. It could be any hide. Snakeskin can be expensive, tends to cost more when there's an ornamental head attached to the skin of what used to be a complete body. It took probably a month or more than months from what you could tell, from what people you vaguely knew were saying. Curated clicks, round yellow faces, a single tear. More than a month to figure out if it was an accident. You were just skimming, supposed maybe she fell off the boat. For a while you thought it could have been negligence. She could have been drinking, partying, smiling on this boat when something happened. No one's fault. Make it work is what Tim Gunn would snap at contestants and why he's your hero. At least some of us try. Turns out Kim was reporting about a man on his boat, the way you learned in J school, studying a man in his natural habitat. One of the news stories you finally ingested said this man had mad fantasies about women's heads, mutilated torsos, burnt bodies. Kim was probably killed by this man she probably didn't know before she got on a submarine. A sub, not the dreamboat you'd envisioned. And you don't know what happened. You scrolled, but didn't know the story at all. I don't see any questions. I see lots of emojis, but no questions. I think I might. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I think I might switch back to some new poetry. So my next book will be coming out. Well, details on that later. But it has been greenlit, and I would say this next book of poetry. This book is definitely about a body in transit, and I would say the next book is about sort of the Earth's body. And I'm going to have three sections in the book. One will be poems based in Cork, one will be poems based in San Francisco, and the other section I say it's poems that hover over the Atlantic. And so let me pick a poem to read. So this poem that I'm going to read, I would say, is obviously based in the San Francisco um, section. Santa Anita is a very, very famous horse track in the Bay Area where horses are just murdered constantly. So this is called The Races. We ball, papers, tell Santa Anita's crushing bet, cracking backs, blades, bones underfoot, blank fire, kick, panic. Grandiose haste, a wildness clutches the race card, prizes the impeded platoon. Still, after hoof, soot caked, malted headless shells, who is the man avoiding the lost eyes by a nose, skinning the body, and the one before slitting the jugular? In the corner are mare furrows. Is the man paid in cable blinders? At which point is he clean? Are there speckles of congealed scream on his laces? What does he bring home? Does this man brush his daughter's auburn mane with a cold streak of crimson? Um, and so I was actually talking to my mom about this last night because there was a special on TV about Samuel Little. And if you don't know, Samuel Little is the most, he was the most prolific serial killer in the United States. He killed 93 women. But he went under the radar because he targeted women that he knew people weren't going to be looking for and that the authorities weren't going to be invested in searching for. And he was able to do what he did for about 20 plus years. And this is a poem about that. And it starts with an epigraph from him. And it says, God put me on earth to do what I did. He made me. And then I follow that with a quote from Dennis Smith, who his book is here. I always have it with me. I love this book. That says, I shout down sirens. They bring no safety. His name is smallness, his deeds small. He hungered, feasted, silence, screams. We hear it though, a subaltern frequency, an echo, a yelping of dogs, of men, the man and flame and belts unbuckling shame and prayer and breath and hair and churches and shrapnel, bricks over fountains, counters and sitting and waiting for and from. The wet, the crimson, the soil, the lash, the bracing, the warm, the opening, the eyes, the release. We are still. We are memory. We are silent chorus. We are still. We are still smaller. 93 plus, no world, no armor, no more. We are unborn. We are our. We are us. We are directing us out. It's our emergency. Only our exit, a mercy. And I think I will end the set with a poem after Kara Walker, who is my favorite artist. She actually had an exhibit at the Tate that was supposed to be running right now, along with Steve McQueen, the British director who I'm actually doing my thesis on. They were both showing at the same time at the Tate, and I had tickets to go for last week. And obviously that trip didn't happen, but you should check out both artists if you have a chance. Steve McQueen's an incredible filmmaker, and Kara Walker is just the most amazing visual artist. And this is called Candyman. A pollination dressed in bark parades into the show of unwilling. Retribution salts the soil, sprouting gourds of green lust to pinch at a girl's nose or bosom once blossomed. Stained breath inhaling a sugared song of your pain, creasing the hours that are yours, alone, awake. Okay, so I think that is it. Um, I don't see any questions. I see lots of emojis. Thank you. I love you guys too. uh, Let me wrap up by saying a couple of things. First, I want to thank all you guys for tuning in. Obviously, thank you, Culture Ireland and Facebook and First Music Contact, and to Brendan Miller for helping me live stream for the first time we did it. And I just want to say how much I adore Cork. I'm so grateful to be here. I want to say hi to John Breen at Waterstones and Paul Casey of Ovale and Maureen O'Connor and all of my professors at UCC. Thank you for welcoming me to the city and making me feel at home. And yeah, I love you guys. Thanks a million, Ireland. Goodbye for now.